Nigeria Info, Abuja.
Thank you for being here to talk to me. Very special welcome to you if you're just joining us. You are about an hour and 6 minutes late, but it's okay. I understand you're not all together late, regardless. It's still Tonight with Somi here on 95.1 Nigeria Info, where we keep it passionate, trustworthy, and conversational. And I think that the conversation we're about to have on Bonded today will definitely tick all of those boxes. All of them. It's basically looking at domestic abuse, but this time around, not from the perspective of a woman, but from the perspective of a man who has experienced this in his home. Just in case you are joining us and you're thinking that you want to be more involved and more participatory, you can do that because we are streaming live on Facebook and YouTube. So go to Nigeria Info Abuja and you can have a more immersive experience, so to speak. You can ask questions there, you can send in your comments, and you can just let me know where it is that you are watching from. And to all of you who are listening across the world, welcome to you once again. All right, then, let's get into the conversation proper. So a particular video was making the rounds earlier on in the week, I think over the weekend and earlier on in the week, and it did cause a lot of stir. Now, some would have argued that it was a skit because, sometimes, especially when you're on socials, you forget that it just seems like it's one big reality TV scene going on because you can see some of the most horrendous things happening. But the one thing that you can be assured of is that somebody's holding a camera and videoing. So whether it is a man and a woman fighting, there will be a camera there. It's properly captured, right? In some instances, it's someone who is even struggling for their life, and as opposed to helping them, there is a camera on them just recording the moment. And so this is the world that we found ourselves in these days. And so when that video started making the rounds, some people were like, this can't be real. This has to be a skit. This can't be real. And I remember seeing conversations like, please, if this is not a skit, make sure that that person is arrested. And if this is real, what on earth? Now, what was causing people to get into this kind of stare? So apparently in the video, you had a man who was at home, and he seemed to be just sort of spending time with some relatives of his. And his wife walks into the room. She's pregnant, by the way. She walks into the room and she's holding her phone, and then she puts in his face and says, "What's the meaning of this?" And Baba is looking at the phone. He's trying to process so many things at once. You know how it gets when a woman first of all says, "We need to talk," and then the man's head just starts spinning and he's calculating so many things. This one was not "we need to talk," it's "what's the meaning of this?" So there was a direct confrontation. She had, I think it was her phone or his phone up in his face, and she was asking him, "What's the meaning of this?" And for a minute, he was trying to put his thoughts together. And I think by the second time she asked him the question, and he goes, "What do you mean, what's the meaning of this?" There was a dirty slap landed across his face. This woman slapped her husband. And the man is in shock. And then she continues to ask him, "What is the meaning of this? Why did you do this?" And then the next question he asks is, "How did you get the password to my phone?" And she lands another slap. So I'm watching the video and I'm cringing and I want to enter into my skin and I'm hurting for both of them, but especially for that man, because if that was a skit, I remember some of the comments were like, nobody should even sit down and take this kind of assault, even if it was a skit. And so there was that conversation. Can it be? Can it not be? Long story short, in the span of time that I was able to watch that video, there were no less than 3 to 4 slaps landed on that guy's face. So this woman was repeatedly hitting him. At a point, she challenged him. She's like, I'm asking you a question, you are still sitting down. This is a man trying to hold himself, trying to put himself together. And then she goes, I'm asking you a question and you're still sitting down. And at this point, she grabs him by the shirt and is trying to jack him up. Did you remember when I said this woman is pregnant? And so it was just a whole lot of embarrassment and hurt and humiliation. Remember I said that there were other people in the room. Someone who apparently was said to be this woman's sister was there as well. Yeah, the person who was holding the phone, which again I'm still questioning, because the phone was on this man from the time when the woman walked into the room, right? But forget about the phone for a minute. Is that the people who were in the room were now saying, okay, what's going on? What's going on? And she just kept hitting him and asking him the question and trying to jack him up and get him into a fight. Long story short, there were some cuts here and there. The next clip I see, she's still holding him. This time around, he's standing up and he's going, but you people are here. You saw that I didn't hit her. You see what she's doing to me, so I didn't hit her. It was still him and this woman in one corner. The sister had gotten up, stood in one corner. The person that was videoing without trying to intervene, just asking to me what at this point I felt was like the most mundane question. It's not a case of what happened. You should be asking is, stop doing what you're doing, right? Long story short, the matter dies down apparently, or that day something happened, and then the next day there's another video again, and this time around this woman who's pregnant is at home with her sister and someone is at the door, and then she opens the door and the first thing she gets is a slap on her face. And it's like, what on earth is going on here? The story then goes on to say that this man, who is her husband, didn't hit her, went and told his family members, and then his own sister now came to the house and then assaulted his pregnant wife. And it is like, what is all this madness, really? So we're going to be taking the discussion from 2 angles today. It is the violence perpetrated by this woman against her husband, and then also from the point of the family members who supposedly came to intervene but decided to double down on what the woman did to her brother. And so I know that we have these conversations a lot around domestic violence, and a lot of the time the most horrible acts are done against women in Nigeria and across the world when it comes to domestic violence. But one thing that is not very much spoken about is domestic violence to men in Nigeria. And so I'm going to open up the phone lines immediately now. I don't know how many of you saw that video. Let's even say that it wasn't a skit or no skit. There was a message that was being passed there. There was a conversation that was generated from that video, and I want us to talk about it. You have a woman who is assaulting her husband, and there could be a number of reasons that happened. There could be a number of reasons that happened, but what is the right action that should be taken at that point in time? There was some story that circulated about whether he transferring money from her account to some lady who was his ex, something like that. And but if you watch that video, it would not have been a question of what he did. It was a question of how she handled it. And so let's talk about that for a minute. It's domestic violence against men in Nigeria. How can we do better as women? There's other conversations to be had around the one perpetrated against women, right? And we will have that conversation. But seeing as this video trended during the week, I want us to get into this now. So let's talk about it, okay? It's 0700-951-0000 or 080-959-74869. You can also send a message on WhatsApp or on YouTube or on Facebook. But if you're chatting with me via WhatsApp, it's 080-999-30137. Let's talk. Hello?
Yeah, Hello,
Hi,
evening,
Abdul.
Somi.
Welcome back.
Abdul from my summer.
Welcome back. Go ahead.
Actually, most of the domestic violence that is taking place here in Nigeria, I give it in a different things used to cause it. Sometimes a husband that marry his wife in a good manner, and along the line, he brought his relative into the house, or she brought her relative into the house. It caused that problem of domestic violence because it will reach to a certain time that the husband family or the wife family, members of family or relatives could not be able to remain in that house because of the issue that is going to be rising between the both siblings. And along the line, sometimes proper relationship that link to the marriage, I think lack of it used to cause domestic violence. In a situation whereby you are dating a girl without getting married to her, she impregnates her and she born, and anywhere you go with her, you've been introducing her as your wife. Actually, all those kind of things has its own repercussion that brought all this domestic violence. So that is the reason why if you are going to get married, you should know the kind of person that you are going to marry. And if you are going to marry, you should know the kind of family you are going to put your leg into and get their daughter. Do thorough investigation. If the family of those girls are living in peace, they are very responsible people. They draw a line, their children cannot cross it. Actually, you have to go there and get one of their daughter married. But without that, if they cannot control even the family, within the family they cannot control matters arising. If you step in, you should expect what you brought into your own family. Let that be conscious of people. I think many things cause it, but those two things that I told you is one of the foundations that cause most of the domestic violence. Because if I have the money, I have about 4 or 5 bedrooms, that extra rooms are there. My wife, because of love, she brought her siblings or whatsoever to other rooms. My sibling come and stay there. Those two members of the families that comes in the extra rooms, they're going to be very serious problem. I'm not going to be in the house, and she will be in the house maybe, or she will not be in the house. She's going to be in the office. Along the line, those that we live in the house, they can create problems. So my advice is that I don't often allow when I see different kind of things like this is happen. I rather advise the wife, please, for us to live in peace and your parents will respect us. Let this your siblings go back to where they come from. I'm going to send my own to where they come from so that we will live in peace and arrange of maybe weekly they will be visiting and go home in the weekend. I think that should be better. Thank you very much. That's my take. Keep doing what you're doing and do it very well.
All right, and thank you so much, Abdul from Maitama there, speaking generally as to the matter of domestic violence. The conversation today is hinging specifically around the violence that is being perpetrated against men. And I gave the scenario of the video that trended a couple of days ago where a pregnant woman was seen assaulting her husband multiple times. Like, she was willing to get into that fight with him. And some would say, kudos to him for not laying a hand on her and all of that. But why would a woman go to such lengths? Well, there's some scary statistics if you would dare to look into it around just how many men report domestic violence. We're sharing some of that, but let's take this call and then we'll get back to the conversation. Hello.
Hello, my lady. How are you?
Hello, good evening. Welcome.
Oh, okay. I didn't call all this time around. Then we don't have clean lights in our area.
Hmm.
And the petrol is so cost, the gas is very cost. Okay. About the topic of today, when I heard it, you are saying it's violent, I feel very sad about it because I think the first thing that federal government has to do, because it's terrible and she's pregnant. Women Development Center, they have something over it. Any woman that makes money and you are pregnant, I think the man just has to send her back to her parents because maybe it's not the one that have hot temper, but you don't know. I know devil do a lot of things. I'm sorry to use devil something, It may slap her back or something with, and she's pregnant. It's not good. I know we women, we have to give ourselves respect. If you see something like that in your phone, that is not good for us to be picking our husband's phone and start checking. You see, even if your husband sending money to a woman, you will ask him in a polite way, not in a rude way that so he slap the money further. It's very, very dangerous. I think woman, we have to know what we are going to do in the right way. It's very dangerous. And she's pregnant. I think that man is all those naughty man. I'm sorry to use that language. You see, something will happen, and they will say the man is very wicked. You see, we have to correct ourselves, we women. All this jealousy, all this thing. You have to sit the husband, sit him down and speak to him in a polite way. You see, and correct yourself in your home. If you are doing something that the man doesn't appreciate, then don't forget in the outside. Even if you have 10 children to your husband, dress very well, behave like you are young, like a 10-year-old girl. Why is she doing like that? No. She has to correct herself. Thank you very much. We'll speak later.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Mimi, for sharing. All right, then, Mimi, with a word to the man in question and also to the woman as well regarding her behavior. Well, just to provide a little more context around the conversation, stories that came up afterwards, after the video trended, showed that to a large extent, the woman was the major provider in the home. And if you've been following me, especially when we have conversations on Tuesdays when we have our coach come up and we talk about relationships and how couples tend to get together, there is that conversation that came up around when a woman is the breadwinner, so to speak, or she's the one bringing more of the finances to the home, and how that can contribute to horrible behaviors from this woman. On Tuesday, we also touched a bit on that when we're looking at toxic femininity. Toxicity in relationships, especially from the part of the women, right? And so there was a scenario I shared. I remember starting with a teaser that day where he said, can a woman feed a man, clothe him, give him money for a year and still respect him? Well, apparently, according to the story that circulated from that video, what happened is that the woman was the one fending for him, basically. She was the one bringing in the money. And so when she looked and saw that this man had used her money to do a transaction to feed or to fend for his ex, that's where her rage started from. But again, all of these conversations sort of tie in together as to, what to look out for when you're getting into relationships with people and what to prepare yourself for. I remember seeing a comment on the video where it says, unfortunately, because of the fact that she is his provider, basically, that's why you see the disrespect that you see, and she could do what she could do. And even though the video later said that the man said he was leaving the home, some people were saying for where he's going, nowhere. But all of these things sort of tie in together, and we're trying to x-ray why a woman would be that violent with her man. More on this conversation when we come back from paying some bills. Don't go anywhere. It's still 95.1 Nigeria Info.
Setbacks are not new to us. No. Even when the going gets tough, we stand strong. And our strides of progress remain unstoppable. So, remember who you are and keep progressing. Now, at the end of the day, grab a cold bottle of life like a beer.
Live Continental Lager Beer. For progress, drink responsibly. Not for persons under the age of 18. There's a place where you can get it all trending.
People are dropping on their vehicle, are running, leaving their vehicle.
A place where you can air your views.
I want to report the situation.
Only on your number one station for talk.
This is not the way. We cannot continue like this.
95.1 Nigeria Info. Abuja. Let's talk.
All right, thank you for staying with 95.1 Nigeria Info. It's still bonded this evening on Tonight with Somi, and we're talking about domestic violence. But this time around, when it's perpetrated against the men in our homes. I talked about some statistics, so let's get to them very quickly. There was a report that was done by an NGO in 2022, which said at least 25% of men suffer abuse and domestic violence in Nigeria. And when you see the stories, they're quite horrible. For whatever reason, you have some women doing some of the most horrible things to the men in their lives. There was a scenario where a girlfriend poured hot water on her boyfriend because they had a fight. There was another one where the woman cut off his manhood because he cheated on her. And then we're having the story that we're sharing today about this woman who beats this man, and there's no other way I can put it, because as she was landing those slaps, it was resounding in my soul. I could feel it in my soul. And so the conversation around skit or no skit didn't even matter to me anymore. It was just a case of please action needed to be taken. And one thing that did happen was that a day or so later, or later on in the day, it wasn't really clear what the timeline was. The husband who she was assaulting, his sister came in and slapped her back, but that doesn't solve the issue. It speaks to more that needs to be done, first and foremost with the woman in that scenario. And some were saying that it's because she was the major provider in the home, that's why you have that level of disrespect. But we've had conversations that show that depending on how you start that relationship with that person that you're in, a woman can provide and still not disrespect you to that extent, right? And so the truth of the matter is that there are different scenarios where we're seeing that domestic violence, especially where men are concerned, is on the rise. And we need to do stuff about it, especially given the fact that the society that we're in does not provide for spaces where men can share these things and talk about it and get help, right? Go back to rather let's go a little bit forward to 2023. That was 2023. That was last year, when another survey was done in Lagos, and they had a report that showed that in 6 years you had at least 1,108 men who reported being domestically abused. Right, and so there are initiatives that are being put in place that allow for these things to be nipped in the bud, and also create safe spaces for men to come and have these conversations, because they're not talking. Sometimes you now have scenarios that played out like you did in the video, where the man's sister now felt that she needed to come and defend her brother, and what she did was slap the woman back. Now, that situation could have escalated very quickly, and then what you now have is, you will now say it's domestic violence that was perpetrated against the woman who was pregnant, but she was the one who started it. And so we're x-raying what are the possible causes and how can we possibly prevent these kinds of things from happening. As many as 1,108 men, that was just in Lagos alone, according to this survey that was conducted. So share with me your thoughts on the matter. The phone lines are open. It's 0700-951-0000. You can share of an experience that you know of or that you were involved in, and how you were able to work your way around it. If you know of anybody, of any man who has experienced domestic violence, you can share with us as well. And then we're also looking to people who have done work in these areas to be able to share some advice as well as to how they can prevent things like this. Okay, right. So the conversation is ongoing, and it's so important that we have these conversations again, because everybody's going through a lot, right? Women as much as men, and we need to create spaces where everybody can be proper and everybody can be right in their frame of mind and everybody can heal. So let's get talking. Hello.
Hello, Auntie Somi, good evening.
Hello, good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Donatus calling from Niger State.
Welcome, Donatus. Go ahead.
I greet all the callers and listeners. You see, this thing called domestic violence. You can, it's issues that come up between husband and wife. You understand? But we, to our understanding, will make it to become domestic violence. That woman, she did wrong, but the man himself, he is matured. In a situation where he ignored it hard, you understand? Because the baby that woman is carrying is his baby. You understand? If the man should react or should overreact, people will blame him. And this is that's her way of understanding. Maybe she haven't got married. You understand? She overreacted by slapping that man. She could have looked the brother's face first. You understand? And calm down. You will never avoid it. You understand? Marriage is not friendship or courtship. You understand? To me, I think the man have prepared his mind that I will get married to this woman. You understand? No matter the issue must come. No marriage is perfect, but the maturity is. I was with my child is tall. Doesn't mean that my child have to go up. You understand? So the man, he behave like a man. It do happen to every family, but the way you handle it, that is where you call a man or a woman. Mind you, if you should get problem with that man or mistakenly the man died, nobody in this state will marry you again. You have got a very bad record. Or mistakenly you blind his eye. And no man will marry you again. You understand? And I think for me, patience is the best way to go. After everything, you report her either to her pastor or to the parents. You understand? And let her listen to whoever is advising her. You understand? And at times, you avoid all these young ladies. You understand? Go to all these mama them so that you will be learning from them. When you get, if you as a man, immediately you get married.
Oh dear. Ooh. How could that call have stopped at that moment? Mr. Donatus was making some rather interesting points, and I was about to ask him to clarify. If I heard him correctly, he was saying that, I don't know if I heard him correctly, so I don't even know if I should say what I said. But what I heard, Mr. Donatus, please call back so that we can clarify, was that men should be with older ladies as opposed to younger ladies because that helps them better manage the situation. If that was what you said, and that was what I heard, then please call back because I really need us to get to. I really need us to get us to get to the bottom of that point that you were making, or rather, yeah, I need you to get to the point that you were making. Does that really work? When you're with an older lady, does that necessarily mean that they're more mature and they'll be able to handle this scenario better? Because I remember when we were talking on Tuesday, and we were looking at the teaser that I put forward about a woman fending for the man and still being able to equally respect him. I believe a point of view that was put forward is you would typically see that kind of dynamic where a woman cannot respect a man who she's fending for because she's probably older, she's probably the one paying the bills, and so she dictates and determines how he lives his life and how he moves, which some have likened to what happened in this scenario. Maybe she wasn't necessarily older than the man in this, but it was said that she was the one who was providing for him. And that's why someone made a comment and said he's not going to go anywhere. He would sit down, he would take that domestic violence and he wouldn't do anything about it. Worst case scenario, if he was going to do anything about it, he would maintain another relationship outside of the home, but because she's the one providing, he will not go anywhere. I don't know if there are men who are listening to this right now who can help me provide some clarity on that particular point of view that I just shared. But let's take some more calls. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello.
I can hear you, ma'am. Go ahead.
All right. Mary from Gwagwalada again.
Welcome back.
Yeah. On the video.
Yes. You saw it, right? Did you watch the video?
I saw it.
Okay, please share.
I saw it and I was very enraged. I was very pained. I don't know what happened because she was showing him something from the phone.
Yes.
We didn't get to see what she was showing him from the phone. But I do not believe that she is the one. Maybe she is the one catering for the family. That's why she behaved like that. I don't feel like that. Because, I didn't see the boy like a poor person. And the fact that they even videoed it. You know, Nigeria, we like to copy. When you go do those things and send them, why would you be perpetrating such violence on your husband and then you are videoing it to send to the social media? Perhaps you have spoken with some friends and they say, if it's me, I'll do like this, I'll do that. And so you want to do it and show them that this is what perhaps the boy loves her. So she wants to show that she's in control. She's the one who calls the shots. In fact, I respect that boy. That an African, a Nigerian, your wife will slap you for those number of times, such hot slaps, and you say, I won't touch my wife. His type is very rare. Because if it's another person, another boy, he will not give a damn what you are carrying. What do you want to deliver? But I respect his courage. I also my nerves calmed when the sister, though is also violent, but I was happy. If my brother did not touch you, I'll touch you.
You would do that, Madam Mary.
I was happy that she beat her. That was the only way that I could feel happy. Because that audacity that she had. And if you saw how humble she became when the sister came and slapped her back. If she was the one calling the shots, she would slap the sister back. But you could see that she was humbled. She just wanted to prove a point. I don't know what point she wanted to prove, but the thing backfired.
So Madam Mary, I want to ask you. So let's say we don't know why she felt the need to do that, right? But what do you think, from your understanding of the dynamic in that family, what do you think will push a woman to do that? And how should we better handle it going forward? Because clearly what the sister did by coming back to slap her was wrong. If that family is going to continue together, the stories that we were seeing on social said that the man said he was done, but you have a pregnant wife. Is that enough reason for you to break apart? If you were to keep that family going, how would you better advise them to handle the situation going forward?
If I were to be in the man's shoe, it is because she sent it on social media. That's why the sisters saw and came. It's not that he called the sisters. They saw it on social media. The way we saw it. That's why they came. If she had even done it without videoing it, maybe eventually they would have crashed it. And I saw that the sister, there was another boy who was in the house.
Yes.
Maybe it's her brother.
It's the one that was videoing it.
So those two people could not separate them. Could not hold their sister and pull her aside. So it was as if it was a planned thing. And who was videoing it, for crying out loud? So perhaps the boy also felt, if I touch her now, there are three. Three of them could descend on him before they come and kill him. So he maintained his calm. If they didn't video it, perhaps, because if you are telling somebody the story, that thing that happened, if you tell somebody that this is what, they may not believe you. But seeing was believing. So if she didn't post it, perhaps the sisters wouldn't have seen. So even if she's telling the sisters, they will say, how can somebody beat you like that? And then they didn't touch you. If he had touched you, would have done something. They wouldn't have believed him. So, and maybe they would have been able to treat it. Seeing it on social media, even the comments that people will make will even infuriate the boy the more. In fact, he will be regretting why he didn't why he didn't fight back, because some people are calling him Mumu, that he is Mumu, let him be there and be Mumuing until they kill him. So it is that he is feeling that he wants to behave like a man. And the only way to do that, I respected him that he didn't touch the woman. The only way to do that, go. I'm not sure he's saying the marriage is over. Just go first. Just go first and rest so that he too can have opportunity to clear his head before she. I'm not sure he's saying the marriage is over. You should just go, leave first and go first. Go to your father's house and go, and maybe you go and learn more manners of how to marry and come back.
Okay.
Because they didn't teach her well.
Okay.
Let her go back and get some more training and come back.
All right.
And perhaps with the sister and brother that were in the house, you want them let them go first to their own house. Yes, let them go to their own house and feed there first. Let them go and rest in their parents' house and allow him to rest for some time before they will come back.
Okay.
So I'm not sure he was telling off the marriage completely.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Mary. Thank you for your contributions. All right. The conversation is still on from a trending video about a woman who was assaulting her husband because she saw something on his phone. And it's not necessarily, I mean, some people want to argue and say, oh, why would he do that? Why will he do that? But if you were to flip it, there is no justification for domestic violence of any kind. And especially in a society like ours where, if you look at the social cultural norms and the expectations and the gender roles and all of that, it is not expected that a woman will seem to be physically stronger than the man in her home. And so when you hear things like this happening, what happens is that instead of trying to help the man to heal and process through that situation, the society even condemns him the more, just like Madam Mary was sharing and saying, oh, you are not a man, because if you're a man you will have hit her back and all of that. Domestic violence, whether it is from a man to a woman or to a woman or from a woman to a man, is problematic on all fronts, right? Then you also look at the fact that in our climes, whether it is because we're Nigerian or we're African or we're just the way we are, men are not known to express themselves and talk about their feelings and what they're going through. They would rather keep it in, right? And so even when there's violence, they will hide it and they will be very, very strong and very, very silent about it. A lot of men today are not free to express themselves or speak up when an issue is going on in their homes, whereas women can shout out and receive help immediately. So as much as we're fighting against domestic violence against women, I felt it was important to bring this up so that we can also address the scourge that seems to be on the increase. Some would argue that there's no matter how you want to compare it, it's worse when it comes to women, but it shouldn't be happening to anybody at all, right? And so in a society where you have men who are living with this or trying to deal with this, it then gets to the point where, God forbid that they should snap. That snap is not even going to be nice at all, especially when you have a society that doesn't encourage men to talk about their feelings and share their feelings. As a matter of fact, it's so bad that, I mean, if you take a poll now, and I had this conversation with a number of men, and I sort of like went around and asked questions, and you'd be like, okay, when you're at your lowest low, when you are in the worst possible place, who do you talk to? And a lot of them would answer, who can they possibly talk to? And some would say it's not even an African thing or a Nigerian thing. It is what the society has expected of our men for the longest time. And the unfortunate thing is all of these things have huge impacts, right? All of them have huge impacts. There was a case of a woman who, and yes, Let's even just say it right now. Yes, women typically are not given to just acting brashly or rashly. You would have to push and push and push and push for a woman to do a lot of the time, not all the time, to do what she does, right? And so that's why I typically like to have conversations that touch on every aspect, right? But no matter what the push, better to remove yourself from that situation, especially as a woman, right? There was some video that we saw, I think this was outside the country. Some woman was at a bar and then there was a man there. And for whatever provocation, she walks up to this man and slaps him. And by the time he retaliated, she was on the floor in seconds. I think her partner was there with her. And, sometimes women have a tendency to want to do this thing so that the men in their lives will react. It didn't look like it was provoked. And even if it was provoked, you do not raise your hand on a man as a woman, and it's vice versa. As a man, you don't raise your hand on a woman. We need to be able to have this conversation both ways and preach it both ways, because when it comes to men, the impact of abuse are deep and far-reaching, right? You have men who grew up in these, or who live in these scenarios, having to deal with anxiety, depression, fear, and in some very, very extreme cases, PTSD, right? Sometimes they even develop inferiority complex. They feel less of a man a lot of the time, and they feel like they have less control over their own body, and they're typically always on edge and unable to relax. And sometimes you as a woman, you're thinking that, you're just doing what you're doing, and he's a man, he can take it. And sometimes you'd be like, I've said what I said, beat me now. But he will not raise his hand against you. He will not raise his hand on you. But he walks away from that experience, and he's in a really terrible place. Like in a really, really terrible place. And then you find out that that marriage is just deteriorating over and over and over again. Now, let's also make it very clear that domestic abuse on both sides, man to woman, woman to man, sometimes is not physical. Sometimes it starts with, the mental space. There is psychological abuse, right? And we women, when we start to talk, that we know how to touch them in the places that matter the most. So all of this is just saying that it's a problem on both sides. Some would argue that it is on the rise when it comes to the statistics of domestic violence being perpetrated against men, and we're trying to find out how can we better deal with this. How do we stop these things from happening? One would always say, remove yourself from that situation. Remove yourself from that situation. In this instance, you had seen that video. It was hard for the man to even remove himself, to be honest. My blood was boiling. He couldn't move. He really couldn't move. Again, like I said, the reaction from his sister wasn't any better. And that's why we're having this conversation, so that we end up doing better as a society and raising stronger families. Okay? All right, I have a message here. I think everything on social media is all a skit. RNG. However, given the facts that you presented, I don't think her actions are excessive. They were well deserved. Any human being that would tolerate humiliation above death deserves the maximum humiliation ever. This is rather harsh. Okay. And you didn't even put your name. Send me your name. I'm going to pause on that message there because, it is, I don't know the word to put. Let me, send me your name, okay? You know who sent this message? Send me your name. So here's the thing. When you are on this side of the fence where like I said, I don't know if you watched that video, but if you watch it and you say that whatever the woman did, the man deserved it, I'd just like you to flip it and imagine if it was a woman that was taking that beating, and see if you still have this this position that you're putting here. As to the comment as regarding everything on social media being a skit, yes, there is that tendency, but I wanted us to take away from the message that was there, because listen, if that was a skit, it came from a place. I like I said, no one would just sit down and take those beatings for the sake of a skit. For whatever reason the person who was recording, we need to have a separate conversation around that altogether, because I felt like they could have stepped in and de-escalated the situation. I felt like the sister and whoever was recording could have intervened. I mean, wouldn't it be better if you were recording a situation like that and you were actively involved in de-escalating the situation and ensuring that it didn't get out of hand like that? Because it just could have easily gotten out of hand. Like I said, when it cut and came back, this man was actively trying to get away from this woman. If he had even just pushed her in the slightest, God forbid, we know how people have carried the stories. Just like the report says, women are known to speak out more about these things, and so they get a lot of attention. But what about the men who are having to live with it on a daily basis and who cannot speak out? So for you to say that it was well deserved, May God help us all so that we don't end up with these kinds of things happening to the people that we love. Because your tone will change, I promise you. Good evening. Hi, Louis. I'm not going to call that name that you called me, but thank you. Louis from Durham District with this one. When a man is made and marries a woman, the woman enjoys the man's wealth without bitterness. But when reverse is the case, things like this happen. Although I haven't seen the video, but from what I heard from the caller, such behavior is regrettable and acceptable. Agreed. Now let's talk about some solutions very quickly as we wrap up the conversation this evening. We need to create more awareness on the issue of domestic violence where it comes to men. And if there aren't enough laws, let's create laws that protect men who suffer abuse, hoping that when they do suffer it, they will speak up, because that's another major issue that we have. A lot of the time, they don't speak up and they're not able to receive help on time. And sometimes they just keep taking it in until they either implode or explode. You know, when they implode, they suffer the consequences more drastically. When they explode, everybody that's in the vicinity gets a bit of the heat, and we're trying to prevent scenarios like that from happening. Let's see if I can take a call or two. 0700 951 0000 if you want to contribute to this or give me your thoughts. We're about to wrap it up, so let's do that very quickly. You can also call 080 959 74869. Call me on WhatsApp as well, 080 999 30137. Good evening.
Yeah, hello, good evening, Somi.
Welcome.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Oh, my name is Sam. I'm
Okay.
calling from school.
Go ahead, Sam.
I am actually short of words. That's the simple truth, because I saw that video earlier on today, and I can't describe how I felt, right? Like Madam Mary said from Governor, that man in that video is actually one of a kind. That's the simple truth, because I don't know how many men can take that, right? And again, this calls for it calls for a lot of orientation and a lot of awareness, because we live in a society where, without being gender biased, women get a lot of attention for several reasons, yeah. And then men do not get that kind of attention. And truth be told, there are actually a lot of men that are in that situation. There are a lot of men that are being abused on a daily in their own homes for reasons I do not know, right? So more needs to be done. It's just like, permit me to digress a bit, it's just like when we talk about the boy child and the girl child. A lot of attention is given to the girl child, you know, a lot of attention and care and what have you, without a corresponding attention and care to the boy child. Everybody believes it's a boy now, he can take care of himself. It's a boy, he would man up and all of that.
Yeah.
So I think we need to fix that mentality in our society. First and foremost, we're all humans, regardless of the gender. And I believe everybody deserves to be treated fairly and, you know, with kindness.
True.
So that is just my own take.
Thank you. But thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing. I appreciate that. We are all human, irrespective of the gender. What we can tolerate for one, we shouldn't tolerate for the other. And even more importantly, you can look deeper and find out that there's so many other issues that brought about all of this. The most important thing is start right, ask the right kind of questions, and be careful while you're in relationships with people. Be sensitive to their needs and know how to best approach them. All right, we have to go on a break.
E gets to come moment for this life when you and your honorables no be forget lie. Now na your time to show the world this moment. If you get them for pictures, post.
This Nigeria Info.